Hi, I'm Edwin Samuelson, and welcome to the CineFiles. You can see we're not in the studio, and we're out of the studio, and today we're going to be covering a topic that was Eric's topic, and that today is the Persuaders, which was something we did before, which is where we each pick a movie and try to win us over.
Will this be part 2?
I don't know if it'll be part 2. This will be Eric's
I would say it's more like, it was my choice, but something we all enjoy doing before we discuss why do it again. So why don't we do it again? It's Persuaders, the sequel.
Well, why don't we persuade each other again?
Yeah. Why not? Alright, well, and before we begin, let's thank everybody for the support. The Facebook page is going strong. There's a lot of new people friending us. Also, the YouTube page, the traffic is really improved. And if you like this video, please do your part. Share it on Facebook, share it with people, get it out there. I mean, that's all we ask of you in return. You say you like the show, well, we like doing it, so the more people, the better.
All right, Chip.
All right, Eric.
Chipping, introduce
I'm gonna turn this over. I'm gonna turn the baton over to you, because this was your baby. And you're really excited.
I just realized something. I must have, I switched roles with Mike. I'm the one wearing shorts.
Yeah, I would say that. It's like Bizarro World. You're like the opposite of mine.
These are my legs. We're going to do another Persuaders episode. We did one before. Look it up. It's on YouTube. And I guess, should I start off with my pick? Start out there?
Do whatever you like, or you can.
I decided to challenge these guys with. Well, originally I wanted to see something else, but he wasn't available.
Persuaders.
So that'll be for another time of day. But instead, we decided to switch it up. These guys had to watch it last night. There's a Richard Lester film from 1974. 72, actually.
Richard Lester from A Hard Day's Night fame?
Yeah, well, you see, this thing about Richard Lester, though. Richard Lester has experienced a lot of hate by Superman fans because
he fucked up the franchise.
They accuse him of fucking up the whole Superman franchise. So the fact of the matter is, Richard Lester is an amazing director, a great comedic director. Hard Day's Night, Hell, the great Three Musketeers, Four Musketeers film starring Michael York and Oliver Reed. Well, he made a film called Juggernaut. And Juggernaut is a film that stars Richard Harris. And basically, if you hear about it, you think it's a typical 70s disaster film.
That's what
it's about. It starts off that way, but it's actually more subversive than that. It's a subversive take on the whole disaster thing. One thing is British. But for the other, it's actually a very interesting sort of class satire.
It's also a little bit more political, too.
Very political, very socio-political. But I want to give it over to these guys, because I wanted these guys to see the film and tell me what they thought about it.
I have a mixed feeling on this one. Richard Lester, I have some opinion on him. I think A Hard Day's Night is an incredible film. But the problem is that he's always done, whenever he's made a film that is a kind of a dramatic film or something that has drama, he always has to put comedy in there. And the minute I started the movie, I was like, well, actually, it looks like he's taking it seriously. And then, as I swear to you, the minute I said that to myself, I saw the Roy Innes character.
Roy Kinnear.
Roy Kinnear, sorry. Who actually died on the set of one of the sequels to Musketeers, and that's why Richard Lester quit directing. He hated that. But I saw him, and of course, he has to be this silly character and kind of the lie that
he's a sad character, though.
I gotta tell you, I loved his character.
Yeah,
I loved his character.
There's a lot of pathos there
because
this reminded me of like a Robert Altman film almost.
Yeah,
more than it did of the. I think you went in there wanting it to be a typical action disaster film,
like a Wild Geese,
and you can't expect that seeing this film. There's a lot more going on there.
And the problem was, I thought they were kind of shoehorning so many characters into a 2-hour movie and trying to get in a little story that it lost focus of who the movie was about. That's the problem too with a lot of disaster films. They have so many characters because they open it up.
You know something? Your problem, what you just said, your problem with that is kind of what I saw as maybe the strongest point of the film, is that it kept moving its focus, and your observation that it felt like a Robert Altman film is very astute. I didn't even think about that until you mentioned it. But
may I just interject for a second and explain to our viewing audience that Juggernaut is about an ocean liner a note goes out to the police. This oceanizer just left England and has notified him that some explosive have been set up in strategic places in this boat. And had to send out a bomb squad to defuse these, 7 bombs.
But what's funny is, before they even know that there's bombs on board, isn't it funny that the ocean liner is in terrible waves?
That is, yes, and it's not, like, this is what I love
everybody's
about it.
seasick.
Every disaster film in the 70s it features something happening on, like, the most expensive, most exclusive, whatever. Like, Towering Inferno is supposedly this, like, great masterpiece of architecture, or say, the airplane movies, like the latest airplane, the latest Boeing 747, whatever. This is a crappy boat. It's a seedy,
It is a crappy
rundown
middle-class boat that is just getting by with a crew that's been doing it forever. And one of the most interesting characters, I wish I knew the actor's name.
I was saying, Rose Shumsted.
Yeah, the Indian waiter.
And he's also in Indiana Jones and Temple of Doom as
Right.
the bad guy.
Right, and he's pretending to be like the typical Indian waiter, but it turns he's just like some Cockney hustler that's behind the scenes that's just as wise as the other guys that are on the boat with him. And it turns out he's a very good guy. He's
And by the way,
He's my favorite character.
By the way, which wire should you cut, the red or blue? This was the film that started it. So it's not being cliche. This is the film that did it first.
Well, that's another problem I had too, is that some of the editing in this movie is absolutely atrocious.
I totally
Let me tell you,
disagree.
let me tell you why. Let me tell you why. There's a, no. There's a scene which, of course, you have the annoying kid who goes down the hallway, who's not supposed to go down a certain hallway, and of course, there's an explosion, and in the character's fate, you don't really know if they survived or not until it's later. It's like you figure, oh wait, he didn't survive this. He didn't know. He lived and he died, and I had problems with that. I had some problems.
That's I think a fair criticism, I guess.
I don't think that the bomb went off and
But I'm still annoyed that you didn't like Roy Kinnear, because I thought he was such a desperate character.
He was fine, but not in this film.
I liked him sitting there wolfing
I thought
out
he
his
was
mood and
very good in this film, and I think he captured the pathetic, like sadness of
The existence
being
of
in that job and having to be the guy that has to cheer everyone up, and he knows.
You know what he
he's funny.
he was basically Julie from The Loco. That's who he was.
He was, but Julie was hot. He's
Roy
just like
Kinnear is
schlubby
not
guy.
hot.
I never watched.
He's a schlubby guy that just doesn't get respect, and he knows that
And
people
it's
just
so, and then
mock him worthlessly.
the desperation in his eyes.
Yeah, sure.
Even at the beginning, you got the feel of it when he's passing out the ribbons, and the hippie guys take it and just throw it.
And I love the whole subversion of cliches, like Omar Sharif. He could have been like a staunch heroic captain, but he's a bit of a douchebag. He kind of sits around the Shirley Knight character, and then he kind of treats her like shit.
I'm shocked.
and he-
Richard Harris, yeah.
Well, I was gonna get to Richard Harris.
Yeah.
I was like, dude, this is
But
Richard Harris, man.
Richard Harris is fantastic in this.
Yes, he's the
He
reason
has
why.
almost like a scene that's like a full monologue, and it's amazing that he pulls it off because it could have been really handy.
And you definitely could tell there was an off-camera friendship between him and David Hemmings.
Yes.
Because they were just working
David
hand in
Hemmings
hand.
plays his, the guy who's sort of like under his wing.
And I also felt too that there was some improv in there, because at some point it feels like
Lester's an improv.
encouraged.
you can just feel that Harris just threw out part of the script and went, he's like, I want you to inherit the earth. Like, I love that. Like, you're a good man, Charlie.
The diffusing scenes, or the attempts thereof, I thought were effectively suspenseful, which is why I thought Richard Lester did a very versatile job with this, because he nailed the social satire, he nailed the drama, and he nailed the suspense when it was supposed to be suspenseful. You had a lot of, that's what I mean by Robert Altman, that he had all these different things, even his handling of audio, the soundtrack, where you fade in from one conversation to another in the background. You had a lot of that going on as well. And it reminded me of another film of the 70s that I was just discussing with Mike, and taking up Pelham 1, 2, 3, sort of approached that same kind of attitude.
Well, because it's the same, very similar plots with the terrorist.
But the same sense of quirky sense of humor. The same sense. It's the same.
That's
hobby
much
approach.
better though, because it's not so much slapsticky. You know what I mean? They're not making the characters are not
I didn't think
silly. They're
Juggernaut
actually,
was that slapsticky.
Other than Roy Kinnear, and like I said, you can point to Roy Kinnear and maybe say maybe some of the humor is inappropriate, but once again, I say it's more of a desperate man, because you can tell he's bombing so bad when he's trying to entertain the guests with his song and trying to get everybody's spirits up.
But anyway, so Juggernaut. I mean, obviously you enjoyed it. Obviously I enjoyed it. That's why I recommend it to you guys, but you didn't enjoy it.
Well, here's what I didn't want. I mean, I enjoyed it, but
Inappropriate humor.
the humor was a little, and I thought like some of the editing, like
Editing
the character,
was poor.
the editing was, and it was kind of very visually drab. It wasn't visually very.
Yeah, I thought it was intentionally visually
Yeah.
drab. It wasn't meant
It's that
to be.
70s style.
It really sets the mood, though. It really sets the mood.
It's meant to be a great film.
Well, I think you agree on this. The only reason this film exists is because of the disaster films. Because Irwin Allen's successful Design Adventure and Towering Inferno. That's the reason we got this film.
Well, like I said, but you also had that commando feel, like the Men on a Mission, which was also a popular genre at the time. And if you get an A-list star like Richard Harris at the time interested, you got Richard Lester as your director, I'm sure they could have made
I'll
tell you
Chitty Bang
I'll
Bang.
say a film that I like a lot more.
Young
than
Anthony
disaster
Hopkins,
films.
isn't it?
Yes, it's actually
Young Ian Holm.
Young Ian Holm was great in it.
very good.
Again, subversion of character. He's a guy, the CEO of the company that owns the Ocean
And he
Liner.
wants to pay
the ransom and save
How
the
would you see
people.
that? How would you
He doesn't give a shit, and it's the government that doesn't want him to do it.
I will say this: the film that I do like, that I think is better with Richard Harris' disaster film, it's a guilty pleasure. I can't lie to you people. It's a lot of fun. Is A Cassandra Crossing, which is directed by George P. Cosmatos and Rambo vs. Blood.
Oh, it's terrible.
Oh, it's terribly entertaining.
Please, you're not
mean,
going to recommend that above Juggernaut. Juggernaut's
yes, I
a
am.
movie.
It's very epic.
Cassandra Crossing.
Cassandra Crossing is a lot of fun. It's about a train that actually is on a, it has an epidemic of what is it, like a flu
O.J.
outbreak?
Simpson's in.
Oh, it's a lot of fun.
Sophia Loren.
It's a big budget, film that was made just to make
Edwin's
money.
misleading you. I think Edwin's disappointed that this wasn't that kind of film. It starts
I
off
like
what you think it's
Cassandra
going to be, but Juggernaut is actually a lot more subversive than that.
I'm being honest.
It takes the cliches, turns them on their head.
I really like Cassandra Crossing.
And a nice little turn, although if I had a complaint about this movie, this would be the complaint. The villain is played by wonderful Freddie Jones.
Yes.
And he's clearly not given enough dialogue and screen time because this is a very interesting character.
I don't think they gave enough of a backstory.
Well,
They did.
remember, they had different suspects, and they kind of, I guess they realized by
Well, they had the guilty man until he turned into really guilty.
Right.
My film was a relatively new film that was released last year. And when it came out, it was at the IFC Center here in New York, and I thought, wow, I really need to go see this film because two of my all-time favorite entertaining people in the movie industry are responsible for this film. Well, sure enough, by the time I got around to see it, it was gone. I think it was here for maybe a week, and then it went bye-bye, and it did not have much support in the theaters, but then again, I don't think it probably had much support from the distribution company that it was with. But it's called My Son, What Have Ye Done? And it is directed by Werner Herzog, and it is produced by David Lynch. And when watching the behind the scenes, I found out that Herzog went and found out this guy's life story, met this real life guy,
Skortsky is his name.
and then went to David Lynch to pitch him. And David Lynch is like, I love it, let's do it. Let's make art. That was the whole thing. And they made this film, and it is not a perfect film by any stretch, but it is very entertaining, it is very odd, and all I'm going to say is it's about a guy who goes to, he's a young man from Los Angeles, he goes on a rafting expedition in South America, and I think he has a nervous breakdown.
I think you're over-explaining the
I think
plot
you're
a little bit.
He has a nervous breakdown and comes down.
Here, well, people, it's easy. Michael Shannon goes to the jungle, comes back, ape shit. There you go.
Basically, he's holding someone hostage in the suburban area, and it's kind of like all the cops are surrounding it, trying to get there and save whoever's in there. There's a twist as to who he's really holding for hostage, but he's also killed his mother just down the road.
And Michael Shannon.
There's flashbacks.
Michael
flash
Shannon.
forwards.
I liked him a lot. He's a very good actor, a very strange looking guy. He actually reminds me of
Very intense.
He's an intense dude. He reminds me a lot of like Nicolas Cage in The Good Days.
He reminds me of a young Christopher Walken.
Yeah, very much so. In fact, I mean, that's that intensity, that craziness. It's like kind of little Crispin Glover's in there, but I feel like this guy could do anything. I really like
But
him a
don't
lot.
you think, right off the bat, even before seeing the film as just a film fan, you see Herzog directing, Lynch producing, Michael Shannon starring. Don't you think there's something stirring the pot here?
Yeah, I was actually really looking forward to this film because Werner Herzog did my favorite film of the last few years, just prior to this, which was Bad Lieutenant remake with, well actually it's not even a remake, the Bad Lieutenant, Porter Call, Duty Lost, whatever, New Orleans. It is an excellent movie, phenomenal, crazy, insane character, like by Nicolas Cage, is amazing. I love that it's an intense
That was
movie.
alright.
I love the movie.
I thought
That was
good.
fucking brilliant.
I was entertained by it.
I was laughing my ass off.
To break it down.
It's the best thing Nicolas Cage done in years, and it's the best thing Werner Herzog has done in years. So I was looking forward to this film.
Better than
And-
better than almost every film Herzog.
Well, I'm talking, he hasn't done a fictional film, you know.
Oh, fictional.
Yeah, I'm saying I don't consider his documentaries in this, I mean, they're great, but they're not, Grizzly Man's amazing. But this is a different film.
I actually thought Rescue Dawn was much better.
Yeah,
than
Rescue Dawn was
Bad
really good.
I can
That's
never
right.
review that.
Thought Rescue Dawn was
Amazing. Rescue,
better.
I think Rescue Dawn
Bad
is decent,
Lieutenant.
but Bad Lieutenant is amazing. But anyway, I saw this film based on the recommendation of Mike, and I gotta say, I also, you know, because David Lynch produced it, and Herzog directed it, I was very disappointed. I liked Michael Shannon's intensity. However, I thought the flashback structure of the film was it did not work. I didn't like the way the film unfolded. You really don't, Michael Shannon is very good, but they really don't explore why he's gone nuts. You know, of course, he had a relationship with his mother, but you don't see enough of that before he broke. You know what I'm saying? You always see he's this guy who's slightly off center, and then he goes through and he completely goes off center. You know, his little
Was
nice
it
touches,
part
razzle
of
dazzle.
it was something about the fact that he was the only one that survived that trip?
Yeah.
Like the other raptors died and...
I don't know. There's something about the film that just did not work for me. It left a cold taste in my mouth.
See, I found the film enjoyable. I wouldn't say...
It's not as good as Port Call. No.
Well, I wouldn't call Port Call a good movie. I say it's good camp. You know, and there's parts there where you know Herzog's just doing it because he wants to fuck the Hollywood establishment by doing this thing. But I wouldn't call it a good movie. It's a very entertaining film.
I'm shocked. We'll have to say that.
But my son, there's this is the kind of movie it is. My son would have me done. He does this thing, right? Where he does you can tell Herzog's thing. I'm gonna do a bad Herzog impersonation. He's like, I like what they do with the Matrix movies where everyone just is frozen in time but still looks three-dimensional. So I think actors just freeze. Just don't move. And they have a tableau when everyone stopped, they just freeze. It's out of when it was a police squad at the end of every we're showing the credits, but you see her hand shaking and stuff like that. I don't know if he did that because he thought it would be a great artistic choice, or which is a really bad mistake.
This movie, but this movie, if for no other reason, you've got to rent it because there's a wonderful scene where Michael Shannon is talking to his racist uncle, Brad Dourif.
That's actually a very good scene.
In the
my
woods.
God! I wanted
In
to
the
put
woods.
that on Facebook. My girlfriend was like, "You cannot put that on Facebook."
In the woods, and for whatever reason, there is a very dazed midget in the background wearing a tuxedo. There's no reason.
It's not midget, it's dwarf or little person. That's like the correct term.
What were you?
Dwarf or little
What were you
person.
thinking when you saw this? Because there's no reason there's a midget.
You
Look
gotta
at
say,
Bad Lieutenant, but from the point of view of the iguana, it's the same thing.
this is me. If you're in your movie, the sanest, most normal character is played by Udo Kier.
Yeah.
That should tell you
Okay.
something about.
I gotta give you that. Udo Kier is a normal character. That's pretty fucking out there on its own.
Right. I mean, oh god.
And Udo Kier keeps getting worried because Michael Shannon keeps trying to be in this play that he's putting on, and he keeps.
It's the Oresteria, or Oresteria, I think I'm pronouncing it. So Euripides
Greek
play.
play.
Yeah, it's a Greek play.
But can you imagine?
Yeah, we got some Greeks next door.
No, but you're inserting a midget. You're putting him in a tuxedo, and for some reason, the only thing they can do with this midget is pretend you're woozy.
potential.
I'm surprised they didn't get the, and it's not a midget, it's dwarf or little person. That is the correct term.
But those
but
fake freeze frame tableaus are just fucking brilliant.
I love the thing I did
You
like.
didn't even like Grace Zabriskie?
I love Grace.
Oh, she was very good.
She's been in a lot of David Lynch
was
films.
very good.
She's in, of course, Galaxy of Terror, which is a cult favorite of mine. She's very good.
She was
I
in
think
the
the
Mod
acting is
Squad,
phenomenal.
the original Mod
I think,
Squad.
I think the acting is phenomenal. The problem I have is, like I said, just the focus, the flashbacks don't always work. I wish it could have been a more of a linear set.
I didn't take it. I took it on the same level I took Bad Lieutenant. I was like, you just go with it. It's literally people. If you know Werner Herzog and you know David Lynch and they got together to make a movie together, this is that movie. This is it. This is a David Lynch Werner Herzog movie, and you're either gonna get it or you're not.
But you know something, the key to a Werner Herzog movie is to make sure your leading man is on the same page with Herzog. You have to have that.
Well,
and luckily
yeah.
he had it with Shannon, he had it with Cage, and he had it with Christian Bale.
Yeah, okay. Well, I said, I admire
Christian
a lot of-
Bale's not in this movie.
No,
should
he's
be
not.
clarified.
That would be Rescue Dog.
Okay.
Tell
yes.
us about your pick, Eddie. We want
Okay,
to know
my
what you
pick.
had us see.
My pick. Okay, my pick was a film by a director that I've always loved. In fact, he is definitely on my top 10 directors of all time. He's an Italian director by the name of Mario Bava, who we actually talked about on a previous show. We actually reviewed one of his films called Black Sabbath. I believe it was on our favorite horror show, anthology film horrors. Mario Bava is a wonderful stylist who's influenced many directors from Tarantino to Scorsese to Dario Argento. The list goes on. In fact, he's even influenced, of course, James Wan, our favorite rip-off artist, and even Eli Roth. I mean, the list goes on. Anyway, this film I recommended is called it's named RABID DOGS, which is also under the title of Kidnap. It was originally filmed in the 70s, and as the film was just about wrapping up, the producer of the film actually was killed in a traffic accident. So the film was impounded and it was not released into Mario Bava's lifetime. He died about 7 years after it was made, and about 20 plus years after he died, the film was actually uncovered and they were able to somehow work out the rights with the issues, and they actually put it out there. The original actress, Lee Lander, was the actress in the film, got together a lot of friends and they redubbed the film, because it was, most Italian films are shot without sound. And they finished the film, and actually, Stevio Cappelletti, who was one of the original musicians on the film, actually composed some music before the film was shut down, so they assembled it from a work print. They actually went back and shot a little title sequence, which, because it was unfinished, and added it to the film. The film is unlike anything Mario Bava has ever done before. It is a crime film that is very tense. It takes place in a car for most of its running time.
Okay. What I think of Rabbit Dogs? Wasn't too keen on it, to tell you honestly.
I'm shocked you said that.
Sorry. I gotta tell you, I didn't think there was one. I thought, I kept thinking, it just made me want to see Sam Peckinpah get away. I want to shut it off and see a good take on that kind of thing. I mean, I'm sorry, but I just thought there was everything in it was just every single character was not just unlikable, despicable. To the point where I just found myself not enjoying the film at all. I thought the twist ending was kind of stupid. I know what he was trying to do. It was all about the cynical nature of human beings and all that
Did you
stuff.
like the claustrophobic of it all taking place in the car? I thought they did a really good job keeping it going.
You know what? I thought it was just, this is the way I walked away from it. I thought it was a dumbed down, overly simplistic take on better things. Like a Sam Peckinpah film, or heck, I know this film came out later, but there's a wonderful film called The Hit with Tim Roth and John Hurt. There are ways to do it with nuance, and that's the thing about a lot of Italian thrillers is that they aren't big on nuance at all. Everything is just
No
one-dimensional.
subtlety whatsoever.
No subtlety. I understand, there's a lot of people are fans of that kind of thing. But there was nothing subtle or nuanced at all. They were all types, and I can't care for anybody.
What about you, Mike? I mean, you seem like you.
It stunk.
Oh, God.
That movie stopped. Not only did the whole nature of the film stink, but when I was watching this, I could smell the BO out of my TV. I could smell. These guys were just sweaty,
I can't believe you like
greasy
this.
guys. And I hate to say, but it was out of the worst stereotypical Italian nightmare of like the greaseball Italian that is there. And like Eric said, it was all types. And not only do you have to have one wacky, wide-eyed Italian kidnapper, no, you have to have two wacky, wide-eyed, wild Italian kidnappers.
Oh, and they want to rape the girl. Of course they do.
And then the girl is
That's original.
who you should care about is about as interesting as a mannequin at the Limited too. And
I think you guys are being way too hard.
and then you have the doctor as the leader, and I thought, okay, this is a character that's going to be somewhat interesting, but he's not that interesting. The only thing he does of any note is one of his guys gets out of hand and he
knocks him off.
Yeah, it knocks him off. But the guy that plays the father guy, he wasn't that interesting either. It seemed like all he could do was scold, and then you bring the really talkative woman in at the end. I thought, well, here's another corpse for you. But the two guys that were the quote-unquote rabid dogs, they were just ridiculous.
I was just gonna say that I am a Mario Bava fan. All right, I'm a huge fan of.
He's one of my favorite directors.
Diabolic, you know, and
Why? What did you like about it?
No, he's one of my favorite. But Rabid Dogs, I would say I was really disappointed because I didn't know a lot about the film.
What did we not see that you saw that you could recommend?
What I liked is that the film took place all in a car, basically, and it was very tense. Had a lot of atmosphere, and I liked.
Where was the atmosphere? How was it atmospheric? It was just a camera placed on people.
But I thought the way that
being despicable the entire
But
time.
I thought it was very tense and claustrophobic, but yet it worked very well, and they kept it going for an hour.
How was it tense?
I just because it's a kidnapping situation. You don't know what the hell's going to happen.
But
next.
did you care about the person who was kidnapped? Did you care about the guy that was driving a car?
Yes, and I actually liked the twist at the end. I actually thought it worked very
You
well.
didn't think like the villains were too one-dimensional with
They're
whiplash?
outrageous, cliche.
I mean, let me tell you something.
All
The
the
getaway
villains
is tense.
All the
hit
villains
is
are very
tense,
flat.
and there's a lot more going on. There's no. I hate to say. I mean, it's not like I think every film needs to be deep or anything like that. But there's. I just felt like I just walked away from this film. It's like all it is nasty characters being nasty in a car, and I wish the traffic would just go away because then this would end a lot sooner than it did, and it didn't.
I can't believe it. I'm sorry, guys. I just cannot agree with you on this. I'm just speechless. I'm shocked.
But
you didn't like it at all. I'm sorry, but I hated
somehow
it.
you just didn't the overacting and just that didn't get on your nerves.
It didn't bother me too much because, like I said, I took into consideration that the film was never really finished. And I do have a lot of respect for Mario
Jeez,
Bava.
if they added more parts in, I don't think that would have helped it at all.
I'm just gonna help me to put you on the spot on this because we all do this. I'm not saying that
Go ahead.
my tastes are better than yours or anything like that. But do you think you're cutting it slack because it's Mario Bava? Because I hear this thing.
No.
I'm not saying you do it, but a lot of people say this things like, "Well, the film wasn't finished, so therefore I want to give it more." It's like you have to accept the film as it is on its own terms.
I really liked it. I'm really being honest with you because I like it.
Okay, well, then that's
Mario
the honest
Bava has
answer,
done
and I
some
respect
films.
that.
Mario Bava's done some films that I really think are crap. I won't. Dr. Goldfoot and the Bombs, which is one of the worst movies ever. The first one's no classic, but the sequel's even worse.
And you also, in my opinion, you've got to make a hell of a good visual film in order to take away from that horrible dubbing that you can get with a lot of Italian film. Like for instance, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly had that awful sound dubbing in, but it's such a magnificent film that you get so used to it. But for me, during something like Rabid Dogs, you're still conscious of the horrible dubbing.
Well,
What did you see it dubbed in English or in the original or dubbed in Italian? Because I saw it dubbed in
Both are
Italian
dubbed.
subtitles.
Both you should see it in Italian with the English subs, even though all films
Not that
in
it
Italy at
matters.
that time,
It's dubbed anyway.
all films in Italy were shot without sound because back then they would have a lot of people who were international casts who actually didn't speak Italian. They would speak whatever language they could, and then they would just dub it in post-production.
I'm a Mario Bava fan, and I was disappointed in this.
Well, sorry to hear that. Well, of the films today, what would you say the best film would be? I'd probably say everyone's going to agree on Juggernaut. I think Drab Dogs.
Oh, you know what?
I was surprised at how much I enjoyed My Son, but I would say equally. Juggernaut wasn't my original choice.
Don't tell her.
Something else. Well, we're gonna stay up for another day. That's the one I really want these guys to see. So, I don't know. I couldn't tell. I mean, it's a toss-up between Juggernaut and My Son. Juggernaut was a nice, pleasant surprise when I saw it after hearing about it, whereas My Son, it was kind of what I expected.
Well,
Herzog.
I think we can all agree on this, is that these guys are definitely not going to agree that Rabid Dogs is a good movie. So I'm going to recommend Rabid Dogs. These guys aren't, but I'm recommending Rabid Dogs. It's on DVD under the title Kidnap. Be sure to see the Rabid Dogs version. I don't care what these assholes say. I like it.
And I wanted to include two other points that I completely forgot on Juggernaut. One, it has one of my favorite quotes in the film, which was Richard Harris's wonderful quote at the end when he's trying to defuse a bomb and he just tells the cop on the other line, "Shut up, Jeff." He just says that. It's just such an odd thing to come out of nowhere from a dramatic actor. "Shut up, Jeff." And it's got a wonderful little performance from the actor that plays J.W. Pepper from two of the James Bond films.
Clifton James.
Clifton James. And I thought he was good.
Yeah.
He wasn't playing J.W. Pepper.
No, it was actually kind of fun to watch. I liked him as the politician. But, all right, well, that concludes this episode of CineFiles. Again, if you like the show, please share it on your Facebook walls. And thank you for all the support. And until next week, I'm Edwin Samuelson, and this was CineFiles.